in this video, I'm going to show you how to get started with Firebase, and namely the Firebase Firestore cloud database system. And this is going to be a series of tutorials. In this one, I'm just going to show you kind of how to set up and how to set up a quick and easy web form that you could hit submit, and it'll add data to your Firestore web-based database. All right, so I am at Firebase. I'll have links in here, but it's basically just firebase.google.com. You can create an account. When you create an account, you can do it with a Google account, so that works. You just log in with Google, but you can, if you don't want to do that, you can just create an account. Then after you create your account, you come here to your kind of like your home page for Firebase console, I guess they call it, and list other projects. But I'm going to start a new project. You won't have anything. You'll just have this little plus sign. You can click that, and I'll kind of just show you. Just give this a project name. I'll say test project, and then we're going to go ahead and hit continue. It's going to ask you about analytics. I'm just going to leave the defaults on. You can decide for your own. There's no problem. It doesn't slow anything down. And actually, it's supposed to give you some interesting information. Default Firebase account. Hit create project. That's just more about the analytics. All right. And so this will take a second for this to create your project. Waiting for it. Once it's done, there's going to be a little click to forward to your project, and looks like we're just about done here. There we go. So I'm going to continue to the project, and so now this is your kind of your project homepage. So I can always click here to go back to this. And then there's my test project, just so you know the workflow here. And then now this is kind of where I'm going to live while I'm doing anything for this project. Okay, and so we're going to do we're going to click on database, and so the first option here, there's a couple different options. You could use the old Firebase Realtime database, I believe. Yeah, it's down here, but I recommend Firestore, and that's what I'm going to show you with this. It's a little easier to use, I think. The structure just makes more sense to me. So I'm going to hit create database there. This is asking you which one you want to stay in here, production or test mode. I'm just going to go with test mode. It's easier. It allows you to be able to write stuff right to your database without setting up any rules. In the later tutorial, I will go over how you set the rules up. And you would want to pick a server that's kind of close to wherever you reside. I'll do an East Coast one. Wherever your people who are using your app, I guess, live would make the most sense, because it'll be a little faster for those people. This should only take a second or two for this to set up. And then once this is set up, we're going to have our Firebase Firestore database. All right, and so this is what it looks like. And so how Firestore works, it's different. It's not a SQL database. It's more closer to like a Mongo or like some kind of like JSON programming collection of data. And so you have what's called collections. Collections would be like a table in, like, if you were thinking of SQL. We're going to make one called users, right? And we'll hit next here. And so now it's asking me to create my first entry into this. And I'm just going to leave this blank. I will make like an entry here. I'm going to say user names. And we'll do value Bob, just to put something in there. I'll hit save, and there we go. And so what this is now is I have a collection named users. I have a document. So collections can have many documents. Think of it as like, this is the table, these are all your rows, right? And then over here, we have the fields, right? This would be one column in your row might be usernames. I can add other things, though. I could say, maybe you want an email, and it's bob@aol.com, and hit add, and so now we have two columns, an email and a username. All right, and so that's how it works. And now I recommend, now if you were going to have this, let's say you're making something where these were users and they could play different games in your gaming website, then you would create maybe another collection called games, right? And that one maybe would have card game, 20, 21, let's say, put that in there. And but then maybe you want another field that says user ID, or maybe you're identifying them by user email. And so then bob@aol.com, he's playing this game. This is very simplified, and I would probably think this out a little more, but this could be kind of how you relate these two to each other, right? You're using this email to see that he's actually in this game, and maybe something's going on in here in this game, and you have more fields in here that are related to that. But I will say that you're limited to 1 megabyte with each document. So you can have many documents though, so there's no limit on that. All right, so let's get into how we can actually connect to this. Okay, so I'm going to do a web connection. In later tutorials, I'll show you how to do iOS and Android and stuff like that. But for right now, we're going to go back to our project overview. And this is the web setup. I'm going to click there. Give this a name. This name doesn't really matter. Test data. I'm not going to use the hosting right now. I'll show that as well in a future video. But now, so it gives you this code to use. And so I'm actually going to copy this. This is important. Let me copy this and hit continue to console. And so to follow along with this, you're going to need some kind of some kind of HTML editor. I'm using here is Visual Studio Code. You can use whatever you want as long as you have something for creating a web page and editing it. If you want to use Visual Studio Code, I'll have a link to this. I like it because it has that live server function, which I'll show you in a second. But if you want to follow along, when you open this up, the first time using it, you're going to want to add a workspace folder. And this can be any folder on your computer. You just select the folder and hit add, and then any files that are in that will be in the workspace. I already have mine, so I'm not going to do that. So I have this workspace here with these files. I have a bunch of stuff, but I'm going to use this little test HTML for today. So I'm going to start us out with a basic kind of HTML page with a head, right, and body. All right, so you want to place your code that you just copied there near the bottom of your body tag, near that bottom closing tag. So I'm putting that there. And I'll go over what this is, but basically these are some calls to the Firebase database system to be able to use it. It basically brings in a bunch of APIs for you. And then this is kind of like your config. This is all kind of personal to if you're going to follow along with this, you're going to put in your own code for this because it won't work. I'll be deleting that project probably soon, so you won't be able to use this anyway. They'll give you an error. And this is, I'm going to get rid of the analytics stuff for right now just because it kind of bogs us down a little bit, and I just want to focus on using the core database features. So this is everything you need to get started. So one thing you want to do though is copy this one, and we're going to put this up top in our header. Okay, that's in our header now, and I have some code already opened. I'm going to add a few more here just to make this a little more functional. Let me grab my code from this one. I'm sharing all this with you, so don't worry one bit about that. So I already had this line here. That was this one right here. I added another call, which this is not obvious, but you definitely want this because we're using Firebase app, the web thing, but we're also using Firestore, so you need to have that. And it's not as obvious on the Firebase website to do that. So this stuff up here is just for some styling stuff. I'm using Materialize and some jQuery. So like I said, I'm sharing all this with you, so no worries about that. So the next thing is I'm going to make a little web form. Let me grab all of that. That's everything right here. Copy that. Go to our test page. I'm going to put that in here. And all this is it's one text field. There's a submit button, and that's pretty much it. And then the last thing I'm going to put in here is we're going to have this event listener down in our, this all needs to be in a script tag. So let me make sure that is in a script tag, but I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go back to our test. Yeah, it is in a script tag. So I'm going to make sure it's within that script tag. And this is basically an event listener that's just going to listen to for our form to see if the submit button was pressed. We're going to suppress the default function. That's what's happening here. Otherwise, it would like submit and refresh the page. We don't want that to happen. We just want to call our database. Oh, there's one little bit of info, real important bit of info that I did not copy over. That's these things here. And I'm going to copy this over, and that's going to go right underneath our Firebase config right here. This is the real important one. You're going to use this DB variable that connects to the Firestore for everything, all future tutorials. It's dbd dot, and we'll do all kinds of things. This is just grabbing the form information. We're going to use that form variable to grab information about the form. And this we're going to use in a future tutorial that's going to give us, when we want to display information that we get from our database system. But for today, we're just submitting stuff. And so just to go over what's down here is we're doing db.collection. So remember, it's all collections in Firestore, and we're looking at the collection named users, right? We created that earlier, and we're going to add some stuff to it. And we're specifically going to add to the username field, and we're going to, so it says like this is the field we're going to add, and the value we're going to give it is from our form.username.value, and that's right up here where we have our form, and here is username right there, text. And so just so you see that that's what that's connecting to. Okay. And then we'll clear the form just so when you hit submit, it actually takes the information out of your web thing. So let's give this a try. And like I said, in Firestore, there's this, not in Firestore, in Visual Studio Code, there's this live server thing that I can use. I'm going to click on that. That brings up our web page. Here we go. And so you can see that this is the form. I'm going to put in Mateo as my username. I'm going to hit create. If everything worked well, this should now populate this. Let's go look at our database. Users. Yep, there's another entry there. Mateo. Perfect. So that worked. So that's it. I just wanted to kind of show you how you could connect to your Firestore. So very simple, very basic. I recommend you just play around with this part. In the next tutorial, I'm going to show you a little more about how to bring data from your database and display it on your web page. And then we'll also do some real-time stuff, which is really the meats and bones of using Firebase, is getting real-time connections when something's updated, immediately showing it on your page. Is really cool. All right, so I hope you like that. Thank you, and please subscribe.